Okay, babes, let's sew our hook and eyes onto our vacation vest. I am by no means a professional sewist, so please take this with a grain of salt. All right, first things first, I have marked where I want my closures to be. Instead of just like measuring down and making sure they're even, I highly recommend doing this while the vest is on you, because the mirror images, the increases that we did, sometimes they're not always mirror images because of the tension and all of that. So this is my vest post block. It's already been blocked and I marked where I wanted them when it was on me. So I saw where it would be look even, where they matched up on my body, and I just used removable markers to mark each side. So that is step one. Step two is turning it inside out, because that is where we are doing the hook and eye sewing. Now that we have it on the wrong side, which honestly is also very beautiful, we can get our supplies. So we need our hook and eye. I'm using one that is made for coats, just because I thought that the bigger one would be a little bit more stable and kind of prettier if we do end up seeing it. And because I'm using the bigger one, I'm also using embroidery floss to sew and a regular needle. So I just had my little knot at the end. We're not doing this doubled up just because we don't need extra bulk. And then the hook part is going to go on the left side of the wrong side, and the eye will be on the right side. And eventually we are going to just make sure it's all lined up, but we're going to start with the hook. So I'm just going to set that one aside. What we want to do is make sure that the hook is not over the edge. We don't need to see it, okay? It's okay if we end up seeing it, but we're going to sew it so that it's in line with this kind of middle column, so that the edge is still hiding the end of it. So first thing we want to do is get our knot secured, and I do that by going through a strand of the yarn. So I'm going to go actually through 2 strands. Just makes it feel a little more secure than just actually going under one of the strands of knit. So my knot is caught, and so we can begin the hook and eye. Again, I'm just making sure that kind of the middle is lined up with my removable stitch marker, and we just go through that first loop. And I am going to be doing the best I can to kind of catch the threads of the knit instead of going underneath fully. Okay, one little trick I learned is we make a loop. Sorry, this is so hard to see because it is cream on cream. But once we get our strand through the first loop of the hook, we're going to actually go with our needle into that loop. So it's kind of knotting around it, if that makes sense. Come on. Oh, sorry, that's my tail. Get out of here. Okay, knotted it around. And I'm going to do that a couple times for this loop. So in through the middle and back out into the loop till I have a loop, and needle goes through the loop. Yep. I'm going to do that again through the loop. Can you see this? Catch some of the yarn. Pull it so that we have just a loop left, and loop, and needle goes through the loop. So basically we're just knotting the thread around that. I'm going to trim this tail because it's getting obnoxious. Okay, on to the next one. So I'm gonna go in just like I'm gonna do another stitch, but then instead of coming back out, I'm going through the top loop. Maybe. I'm sorry that this looks so clumsy. I repeat, I am not a professional and my long nails are not helping. Make sure we're staying in line, and I'm going through some of the strands of yarn, back through the loop. And okay, we have our loop. So let's go through it. Okay, now that the two loops at the bottom are nice and secure to the vest, we're going to do one little trick, and that is we are going to anchor down the front part. And we do that by just kind of making our way there. Make sure that you're not like leaving a big strand of thread on the front, but you're just kind of, just like how we weave in our ends, just kind of finding a route to the front part so that now my thread is coming out directly underneath these front folds kind of. And we're just going to go around that first leg like this. And just we're tacking it down. So I'm just going right underneath it again, grabbing some of the vest, just like that. Make sense? And I'm going to do that again. Now that we've secured the top part, I'm just going to get my thread to travel through the vest fabric so that we can get to the bottom part and tack down this end. So now that my thread is coming up right under that bottom part, I can go through it, catch some of the vest, through it again, catch some vest, and we're tacked down. And you can't see anything on the front. Love that. Right now we're just ready to tie it off. I just go through the vest a little bit so that it's not like right underneath, and then I go through, grab a tiny bit of vest and loop it through. Okay, we're back with the second side. I have my needle threaded. We have a nice sized knot at the end, and I have placed this one. So this is where it gets a little funny. Trust your removable stitch markers more than lining it up right here, okay? Because it does look like, oh, this should be a little bit lower. No, trust where we marked it the first time. And instead of like hooking this and then sewing it a little bit closer to the edge, kind of how it looks, still, we're gonna sew it in the same place as we did the first one. So we are going to make sure that it's that middle column, and that the loop is still not over the edge, all right? So like that. Now let's see if I can sew this side for you a little more glamorously. Highly doubt it. So I'm going to go through a strand, not underneath this, not underneath a full knitted strand, just through a strand so that my knot catches. Then let's go through the first eye. Well, I guess that's not the eye. First loop. Through some knitted fabric, back through the loop, and before the sewn loop disappears, I'm going under it and through. All right, caught it. Same thing again, through some knitted fabric, and the bottom loop. Before you pull the loop, go through it. Okay. Then, like we did with the first one, travel through some fabric and pop up at the top circle. Same thing, grab some of the vest through the top loop and through. Try to do this one as close as I can for you. One more. Oops, I think I got something. There we go. Great. And then we're going to do the same thing as we did on the other side, which is tack down this front half. So I'm going to travel through the thread. This. Once you're through that bottom loop, now it's just about tacking it down. So we just grab a little bit of vest and same game through the loop. I'm just going to do that twice. Travel to the bottom. See how you can't see my needle going through? That means I've just caught some of the vest, but I'm not like looping it through all of the strands. Okay, nice and tacked. And we'll do one more. So now we can just finish off this side. I'm just gonna go through one more time like this. And I'll just tie it off in the same way by making a little loop that has caught some vest and going through. And I just do that a couple times. All right, ready to go. Before you jump to your second set, now that you have your first set done, go ahead and try it on again to make sure that these second ones line up. I did have to do a little bit of readjustment just because once these ones were set in place, you see how the vest will lay. And so you want to make sure these ones still are in the correct position. So go ahead and try it on again, and then you'll do the exact same thing that we did for this first pair.